Hi, I'm Doug Dubois with GSA, and I'm part of the product owner team for eBuy. And today I'm going to be demonstrating how buyers like yourselves use eBuy to generate RFQs or RFIs for submissions of quotes for commercial products and services, and also how to use a separate but related system, eBuy Open, that you can use for market research in preparation for future RFQs. And so there's a lot of ground I'm going to be covering today. So some of the slides I'm going to be, it may seem like there's too much detail, but I will go through them as quickly as possible because I'm going to kind of do an end-to-end process of going through eBuy to create these RFQs. First, I'm going to go through several iterations of creating a user account and how you can do the multi-factor authentication or using your PIV card. So those are some of the things where I'm gonna go real quickly through those. And then we're also going to be going through eBuy Open. These are some of the topics that are going to be covered as we go through. Like I said, multi-factor authentication, creating the awards, evaluating awards, and also creating purchase orders. So what is eBuy? It is an RFQ system that GSA has created. It's been around since 2001, but it allows federal buyers request quotes from vendors, and so where they submit their responses. It's used by thousands of federal agencies and military users worldwide. I think one of the biggest reasons, that people for using it is that by regulation, by using it, that you're achieving the required competition and the best pricing and value, and ensures compliance with the FAR. So that's a big thing, big advantage of using eBuy. And again, it's eBuy. It's the sister system of GSA Advantage, which is used mainly for purchasing products, but also there's GSA Advantage, eLibrary, eBuy, and eBuy Open are a suite of applications that we call our eTools that are all interrelated. And so just so you know, like I'm going to be going through the process of doing registration. The same registration that you use for eBuy is also used for GSA Advantage. So if you're purchasing products on GSA Advantage, it's the same user account that you use. And so that's the main distinction between GSA Advantage and eBuy is, GSA Advantage is primarily for products, although there are some services, but there's like literally millions and millions of products available that you can purchase off the GSA contracts in GSA Advantage. But eBuy is generally for more service-related purchases, and also things that are more complex, than just simply purchasing products. So that would be what you'd be using eBuy for. And so as far as what's new in eBuy, like I said, it's been around for a long time. In the past couple of years, eBuy has gone through a major refresh of the technology behind it, so that it's a more user-centric design, and we've added we've upgraded a lot of the functionality in it, so that it used to be kind of slow to refresh and a little clunky to use, but we've upgraded it where it's the speed is much better, the response time and how you can navigate within the system. Things refresh automatically, and then as far as for security, the PIV card registration is a huge thing, and that's in the last year and a half, I think, to 2 years, that we've had the PIV card registration linked to the user accounts. That makes it more secure for accessing. some of the other things, some of the other recent or more recent upgrades were we added a functionality to be able to bulk upload line items. If you have a really big RFQ with complex, a lot of different items, you don't have to enter them manually in the system one at a time. You can bulk upload them. And then also, sometimes where you submit an RFQ, you issue an RFQ, and maybe you don't get quotes from it. People don't respond, or sometimes, or the vendors will respond with a no quote. And so we've created basically a way for you to get feedback from vendors. They can explain why they're not quoting, or maybe just why they maybe they are having supply issues or whatever, but where they can submit feedback to you so that you can see, oh, maybe was there something wrong with my the way I wrote up my RFQ, or maybe the markets have changed or whatever. But you can get that feedback directly from the vendors that way. And then there's one other thing it's actually not included in this slideshow, but it's just something because it's very recent. We just added a functionality where vendors can, when they first see an RFQ, and maybe they're not prepared to submit their RFQ yet, but they can indicate that they're interested in submitting an RFQ, or I mean a response to the RFQ. And that's just a way for COs, because a lot of times where if they've issued the RFQ and they're not seeing responses come in and they get a little nervous, it gives them just a little peace of mind knowing that at least some of these vendors have reviewed it and they're planning on submitting quotes. So those are some of the new recent changes. And then this is just some stats from the last fiscal year on, with around 50,000, close to 50,000 RFQs a year, $20 billion in award value. There's that. Then, so I was going, like I said, I'm going a little fast through some of those slides, but now we're going to talk about actually getting into eBuy and starting with the registration process. And so in order to get in there, you have to be registered. And so this is the homepage for eBuy, and the URL for it is just ebuy.gsa.gov. And this is the screen you'll see there. There's just to kind of show you that in the middle, there's just some scrollable banners there with some current event type things that affect the system. And then down at the bottom of the screen, there's links to there are links to GSA Advantage or eLibrary or help desk links. But then up in the upper right corner, you'll see you have to indicate whether you're logging onto the system as a buyer or as a contractor, because they get different views of the data. So all of this that we're going to go forward is going to be talking about from the buyer's standpoint. So that's what I'll continue on doing. And so this is like when you first click to sign on as a buyer, you'll get this screen so that if you're already a registered user, you could register. But in order to register for the very first time, you would just click register down at the bottom of this screen here. And again, so here's when you've selected that you're a buyer, you're creating your registration, and actually, in addition to federal buyers, state and local organizations can be registered into eBuy as buyers. So you have to indicate, and we have a series of email validation checks to make sure that it's a valid government email or valid state and local government email address. So you just have to indicate upfront which type of user you are. So you'll be asked to enter your email address, typical. And again, it's going to check to make sure that it's a valid government or military email address. Then this, again, typical, like you're used to creating all kinds of user accounts to manage your daily lives. You have to enter the basic information, and a lot of this, password, your password, and then secret answers to secret questions to retrieve your password. So all that you're probably used to, but then in the middle there, in shaded in green, you do also need to enter like which agency and or bureau that you belong to. So that's something that you'll just have to fill out. Continuing on, as you scroll down the page, there is a place for, if you're going to place orders in GSA Advantage, you're required to have an email address and a physical address. I'm sorry, here we're talking about just the email address. And then it will actually send you an email that you'll have to click on the link, to verify that it is the correct address, or that it is a valid email address. And so then if we, as we go down, if you selected no to register your PIV card, you'll have to follow some other instructions on verification, the multi-factor authentication. But here what we're going to do is go through the process of, if you selected yes to PIV card, then you have the option to it'll give you the instructions there on how to register your PIV card. So you have to have your PIV card in your computer. It will read your certificate information off of your card. It'll display it for you, so that you can make sure that it's the correct information, and then you just click OK. And again, it's just showing you. It'll present it to you and make sure that everything's correct. You click yes. And here, this is going kind of back to that screen. You can also indicate whether you want to receive email updates from eBuy or GSA Advantage. And at that point, the registration is complete. We did that with, when we were doing it with the PIV card. And it makes it a lot simpler to log in, so that you don't have to keep entering your password all the time. And it is secure. And so now, once you go through that process, I mean, you could just click on where you see the bar near the top there, where my account, and then eTools. That's where you could click eTools, and then you could just go to Advantage or to eLibrary or eBuy, and it would go to the main page from there. But that was, we did one path where we were registering with the PIV card. But what I'm going to do is go back and kind of show you another process, that if you don't have a PIV card to use to link to your account, then you have to have a different method of multi-factor authentication. So we're going to kind of show that you start by entering your email address. And so, you've selected different methods. You have options. There's five different options. And so you can, I highly suggest you set up at least 2 different multi-factor authentication methods if you don't have a PIV card. And basically it can be either, you can get a text message, and then you get, they send you a code, and then you enter that, or email or voicemail, or by security questions that you set up, or also there's by using a Google Authenticator application. And the thing is that when you're initially setting up your account, you have these options, but once you set up these options, if you ever wanted to change them, you can't really get back to this. You would have to contact the help desk if you wanted to update and add different multi-factor authentication options. Just letting you know that right now, you have to make your choice right up front. But so we're going to kind of go through like the Google Authenticator application, which is basically you go to your app store and download an app, the Google Authenticator app, and they have different version for iPhone or Android, depending on what you use. So you just download, you have to indicate which type of phone you have. You download the app. Then when you click next, it'll send you this QR code that then you use the app to scan the QR code. Then it will send a code to your phone. Then you enter the code here, and verify. And then so like I said, so that was Google Authenticator way for multi-factor authentication. I'll just quickly just go through the setting up for email authentication. This is something I'm sure you've done so many times before. You just it's got your email address, then it sends you a code. So you get the email with the code, then you enter the code, and that's how you log in with that multi-factor authentication option. So anyway, just wanted to walk through those steps to make sure that people know that there are many different ways, options you have for logging in securely into the system. So after all that, when you do get logged in, you're back here at the home page again, and again where you would select buyer as your path for getting into the system. So here we're back to the eBuy buyer homepage. Across the top right corner, you've got the different options for RFQ Finder, where you can search for some of your RFQs, or if you want to prepare a new RFQ, or look at your existing RFQs, or you got the message center there, and then your user account, where you can look at your user profile. But then the main portion of the screen, it's broken out into the 3 different functional areas for eBuy. You've got search, select, and prepare. For search, it's talking about searching for what type of products you're trying to buy for the government. Then select is where you're selecting which vendors that you want to invite to respond to your RFQ. And then prepare is where you have to prepare the documents that you're going to share that become part of the RFQ itself. But then also there's the button where to just start off the bat, you can just click prepare an RFQ now. I was just talking about the RFQ finder and all the different sections here. So once you click on prepare an RFQ, this is the main preparation screen in eBuy. And if you'll notice, like up at the top, then it's numbered 1 through 4, where it kind of walks you through the process, and you'll see as you complete the process, you can track you can see where you get a little green check mark next to the different sections up there at the top, show that you've completed those sections, because you have to complete everything before you can submit it. And then there's also, people work in different ways, and some people are more familiar with the GSA contracts, because we've got our schedule contracts, GWAC contracts, BPAs, all kinds of. There's the Veterans Administration medical contracts are in here. So you may want to just search for the type of property. You may know the specific contract number you're looking to purchase on. But so there's a lot of different ways. So the main way, if you look, there's the keyword search bar there, where you could just type in, laptop or whatever it is that you're looking for. Or we've kind of broken down in the middle section there. There's like 12 main categories that you could click on, and then you can see subcategories under those until you find what it is you're looking for. And then down at the bottom, there are some specific acquisition solutions, with our mass schedules, technology contracts, and blanket purchase agreements. And as I'm going to go through each of those different ways of searching through things to find the products that you want to purchase. All right. So here's where if you were down at the bottom, if you had just clicked on multiple award schedule contracts, then you get a listing of all the, it pops up, in a new window on top there, all the schedule contracts. The way it's sorted, these are the Veterans Administration contracts I referred to, but if you scroll down to the bottom, it's got the overall mass schedule, and then you can click, drill down to the level of subcategories that you want. So that's if you were to look using those solutions down there. But for right now, we're going to use the keyword search. And for purposes of the demo here, we're going to pretend that I'm creating an RFQ to outfit a conference room in the office. So start by just typing in conference in the keyword search, and we'll see what happens from there. I'll show you. So it brings up here's the initial search results, where you can see the different available categories and it's looking within the title of the category or in the description of it, anything that has to do with conference. So there's you can scroll down through the different ones, and there it shows the subcategories, so you can take a look around. Or if you notice on the left, there's that jump to source, where there's if you want Alliant 2 contracts, you could click right there. And then, like for here though, this one that shows IT hardware, and then the SIN number 33411, that's actually one that we want to take a look at. So I'm going to show, like, if you were to click on there where it says select, you click on that, and then it just immediately pops up showing you that there are 774 vendors under that SIN number in the eBuy system. The contractors that have those that SIN number on their contract. So that's your universe of like who could come in, respond to an RFQ that you might post for that category. But I just want to go over some of the things, like over on the left-hand side, you see that you've got socioeconomic designation. So and there's different groups of those are different filters that you could narrow down your search for, because 774 vendors maybe too much to be useful for you. But you can see that under the socioeconomic categories, it's got them all listed there, and then it's got the number next to it showing you how many of those 774 are in that particular category as well. Same thing down below with the subgroups. It's got, the numbers are smaller there, so maybe you want to, if you're depending on what you need, you can click on there, and then it will automatically narrow your search down. And then there's also, like, just kind of showing you how the page is laid out. You've got the basic, you've got the company name, the city they're located in, their socioeconomic categories. And then you also got the web that you can click on that web page, the link, and it'll take you to the company's website. It'll pop up in a new window, or you can look at their pricing file that's in GSA or in eLibrary. So you've got that. You can also, like, if you're displaying the results 774, you could type in, see in that search box there where it says filter by vendor name or city or state. So if you're looking for just something in Washington, D.C., you could type in Washington, D.C. or whatever city, type it in, and then it'll limit the search to just those vendors. Next to each company name there, the checkbox there is for where you could select them. And there's also, notice the select all button. And depends on your circumstance, how broad of you're casting your net, who you want to be able to respond. You may want to have a lot of vendors, or you may have a few specific vendors you'd like to invite. You select all, and then you say continue. That's how you would go about selecting them, or you could just select individual vendors there. Also, if you were just to click on the company name in that listing, then it just pops up a display giving you the basic this information here for each of the vendors with their website, contact information, which socioeconomic categories that they are in. And then this just shows a kind of a bigger view of the when you get that the listing where you've got a lot of vendors displayed. Like here we have selected from the subgroups on the left, audio visual equipment, or 36 vendors, so you could just click that and then again easily limit it to those vendors. So now your display has only got those 36 vendors. So it's just a way for you to be able to filter your search. One of the other things was that the socioeconomic categories, I'll go back here, they're the alpha codes, and they're in lowercase. Those are the codes that we get from the SBA that are the official codes they use to designate the different small business subcategories. But you may, if you're not familiar with them, if you just click on any of them, it will pop up this little window giving you the full title of what those codes are. And then you can just close that window. But if you are interested in limiting your search to certain subcategory of small businesses, you notice that we've got this little blue shaded bar that says, is this a small business set aside? So that you'd click yes there if you want to do that. You get the drop down list of the all the different categories that you can create your RFQ as a set aside. A couple of things here are that you when you're doing a set aside, you can only select one category of to have it as a set aside. And so again, however you set it up, if you set it up as a set aside, then only vendors who fall into that category will be able to respond to your RFQ. The one thing I do want to bring up is that even, let's say we're not doing a set aside, let's say you're looking through all the vendors and you select 5 vendors that you're going to send this to. So when you get all through the process and you submit it, those vendors that you've selected will get an email with all the details and a link to the RFQ so they can go take a look at it. But any vendor that is in those same categories can go searching through any open RFQs, and and they can submit bids on these. So even though you're limiting who you select, which vendors, but it's not necessarily limiting it to them to respond. Others would be able to respond. But if you select a set aside, then only those in that category can respond. And then here's, like in this example, we, under this SIN 3341, we selected service disabled vet. There were only 6, and it just immediately updates the display results so that you can go through and select which vendors you want to do. If you were selecting a lot of vendors, there is a little bit of a warning. It's just letting you know that there's a lot of vendors that you're sending this to. Are you sure you want to do that? But you can just click yes, or you can go back and narrow your search down even more. Now that we've gone through the process where we've searched for the type of products, and we've selected some vendors. And if I just want to point out that if up at the top you've got, your search section is complete, so you've got a green check mark, and then your select, it shows you which category you've selected, and you've got a green check mark. So we're getting on to where we're ready to prepare the rest of the RFQ. But then also on the left-hand side, you can see where you've got the RFQ, the draft RFQ number, and then you've got the red, yellow, and green buttons. You could cancel it, save it as a draft, submit, but it won't let you submit. If you try to submit it before everything is completed, it won't let you. But that's what this little section down below there is. Again, with the green check marks, it'll tell you if that particular section is complete. All the ones with the yellow triangle are required. And then there's two, the attachments and the line items are optional. But if you have them, it'll put the green check mark there as well. But it just shows you where you are in the process. It does occasionally prompt you to save the file, because it doesn't automatically. It's not like Google Docs or whatever, where it's just always saving all the time. So you do want to save occasionally, and you can use the yellow button to save draft, or sometimes it will pop up a prompt for you. Again, we're using our same example where we're trying to create an RFQ to outfit a conference room. So in addition to the IT part of it, we will need furniture for this conference room. So you can have multiple categories that you include in your search. Some of them can be very complex. Some people may want to separate it out and do separate different RFQs for different parts of it, but you can get it as simple or as complex as you want it. So we're going to go through the process of, in this example, of adding another category for furniture for the conference room. So we select, the furniture that was from those 12 categories in the middle. Then you can look at the different subcategories under furniture, and then notice that where it's got the description, you can click on that little arrow next to the description, and it'll pop up a fuller description of the different subcategories. And then so you just and you can just click on explore if you see one you like. The comprehensive furniture management services, because that has furniture design layout in it. So we're going to select that. And again, I'm not going to go through all of this, but it's the same process where you get the list of there's 13 vendors for this category. You could select them. Where here we've selected all, and so it puts a check mark next to all of them, or you can select certain ones, but here we select them all. And now if you notice up top on the select section, and you could keep adding more categories there, but for our purposes, we're going to continue. And one of the there's another little section here that down below is for these selected different types of complementary SINs. So we'll go over that in just a second. But again, this is just showing you that kind of zoomed in view of what that navigation panel on the left, where you can save, and that's the other thing is that either from the top bar where it kind of shows the summary of the navigation, or here you could just click on any one of those sections and it'll take you to that part of the RFQ, so that if there's one that you thought you were finished and it doesn't have the green check mark, you can go directly there and see what you need to complete for that. And we're continuing on in creating the details of the RFQ, where you just indicate the ancillary SINs, or ANCRA is ancillary with repair and alteration, and then OLM is order level materials SINs. And if you're here as a buyer, you probably know more about that than I do. You can indicate whether contractors can include those in their RFQ or not. So some may have them on those types of SINs on their contract, others may not. But it's just whether you're allowing them to be included or not. So you just make your selection. And now we're moving on to the meat of the RFQ. And this is, it's just, there's not that much to it, but you have to give it a title. The system already generated a draft RFQ number for you, but you may have your own internal tracking number. And so this over on the right, the reference number, you can use that. It's an optional field, but it may help you, if tracking some internal number that you have. But the main thing is, the title and then the description that you enter the text in there. And the main thing is you want to be as clear and concise so that, because the vendors are looking at all these RFQs and looking for something that fits their business and what they provide. And so you want to be as clear about what it is you're looking for, or what your evaluation criteria are. But I mean, there's more on that here in just a little bit, where we talk about attaching documents and all. You have an open and close date for the RFQ. The default in the system is for 5 days. That you can make it longer or shorter. The absolute minimum that you can have an RFQ open is 2 days, 48 hours. So you have to decide for your own situation how long you want to have this open for vendors to be able to submit their responses to your RFQ. But then I also want to mention up here at the top, this right above the RFQ title, there's a little checkbox for seeking sources or information only. That, if you check that, you're saying that really I don't want pricing information. I'm just kind of doing a preliminary search or a request for information, so that maybe you don't know what businesses have to offer for what you're looking to buy. So you're searching for information. And so when we talk about RFQs or RFIs, that's the difference. If an RFI is where you're only searching for information, so you would select that. The thing is, though, whether you select it or not, it's going to have the RFQ number will be RFQ, whether it's technically an RFQ or an RFI. Just want to make sure that everybody's aware of that right there. But then if you scroll down from this screen, then there's just a little bit more where you've got the open and close date, and it just gives you some guidance on how to make sure one to worrying about if it's on a weekend or weekday. Also, one thing to think about when you're setting up your open and close date, once you are finished and you submit it and it's issued, you can go and modify it for a few, many different reasons. You might make a modification to it. You can always extend the time period for responses, but you can never shorten it. So just keep that in mind when you're initially setting it up. Okay, and then you also have to enter some delivery options, and it depends on what, again, you could be products or services. So you have different options, whether you want to say the delivery of what you're asking for, you want it within X number of days from when the vendor receives an order, or you can put in, from then again for services only, date of award to date of completion, or if you're trying to award something for, so this whole fiscal year of accounting services, something like that, you could put in the whole date range of what it is that you're trying to purchase. So those are the 3 different options for delivery options. We've got attached documents, and then line items. We'll do quite a bit of detail here on that, and shipping address. But first, as far as attaching documents, we've made it pretty simple. If you just click in this gray box here, then it'll pop open a window, so you can go search anywhere on your computer where you have any of your files. It could be Word documents, PDFs, Excel, blueprints. You could include any kind of documents in there, select them, drag and drop them in there. And then here it just shows you where you're like you've uploaded some, looks like Word documents there. It's pretty open of what you can put in there, and also there is a limit of 100 megabytes per file, but that should be enough for most any documents you want to attach there. And you could attach as many documents as you want. We're getting towards the end of this part, but line items. And you could specify, again, this is an optional field, but if you have specific items that you want included, so that you want quotes for a specific type of, phone for your conference room or whatever it is, you can enter those. And then this is where we have two options where you can enter them like one by one, or you can do the bulk upload. But in preparation for that, this is just kind of a little shout out. You could click on a link and open up GSA Advantage and do your searching and find your product information. Because if you need to find manufacturer names, product, part numbers or whatever, that you can do that in GSA Advantage. But again, going back here to where we're going to first go through the processes if you're adding line items one at a time. And so basically it just pops up the little window where you enter these few fields, part number, manufacturer, product or service name, and then the quantity and unit of issue are important. You just enter them there, click add a line item, or you can enter them as a bulk template or in bulk. In order to do that, if you were to click enter in bulk, this is the screen you get. And if you notice up here where it's got the instructions numbered there, first thing to do would be to download the template, the spreadsheet template that you'll use. And then this is what you can see where it's called buyer bulk line items. You download that. Here's what that template looks like. And again, it's basically just the same information that if you were entering them one by one, but you've got it in a spreadsheet. So maybe if you've got something, you can just copy and paste a bunch of items into here and create it. Here's showing you once you've filled it out, you've added a bunch of items here that you're going to include in your RFQ. Then you drag it here to the attachment. But here's I just wanted to show you that there is see this red error, validation error. We do run some checks to make sure that all any required information is in there, or there's not any strange characters that will cause problems. So if everything is okay with the file, it will upload. If not, you'll get this error, and then it'll have you download a file highlighting the errors, and it'll tell you what the errors are. Then you make the changes, and then you can re-upload it. Once you've successfully uploaded those bulk line items that we created, this is where you're back in eBuy and showing you what it looks like when you're looking at the line items in your RFQ. And you see there's different quantities and unit of issue, or these are all each, but you could have some could be by the dozen or whatever, pallet or whatever. But so you've got the items in there, and so this is where vendors will be able to tailor their response, where they can bid on all of them or only certain items in your RFQ. And that way you can, if you get, if you've got 20 items on your RFQ and you get 10 bids, some of them are going to bid on maybe all of them. Some you can split your award up. You can break it out to different vendors that way, and we'll go through that. And then this is just one of the last things on the you have to enter a shipping address for your RFQ, and then if you're a buyer, you can in your user profile, you can save different addresses in there. If you're buying for different offices or where you can you don't have to create it from scratch each time. You can save a whole list of shipping addresses in your profile. And this is just showing that. You want to select that, you can select from the other addresses you've already saved. And you can see how is under, you've got green check marks next to everything. So that means you should be good to go. If you were to click the submit button, it will give you, prompt you. You have to confirm that you're sure you want to submit, but you're ready to go. But you could always, save to a draft or continue making changes. But once you hit submit, it shows you again. You kind of scroll through it to make sure that you've got everything exactly how you want it. And if here you've got the blue and the green buttons, cancel and submit. If you hit cancel, you're not canceling the RFQ, you're just canceling the submission, so that it's still in a draft mode, and then you can make more changes. But once you're all done, you've got it all done, you click submit, and you've got your confirmation there that it was successfully submitted. So at that point, it's out that the RFQ is issued, and so any vendor in those categories that you're looking for, they can view it. But those that you selected, they'll receive the email at that point, so that they can so they're notified and they can respond. And so there you have that. So now that's a milestone. You've got it out there, but then we're gonna go through the process of the vendors are responding, or maybe you want to make a change to it, or you have to do Q&As. So we're gonna kind of go through that. But one of the things that you can also do with an RFQ is to forward it. And this is not forwarding it to like another vendor. This would be forwarding it to someone within your work group. This is so that, if you're doing an acquisition and you've got a team that's working on it and you're working, it's a way for you to collaborate, so that it's not just, or if you get sick and you're out and you can't get in and do it, somebody else can work on it, sharing the workload. But I will show you that process. Here's where there is a process to it, but here we go. Here's once you're logged in and you're looking at these are your workload. You can see which ones are open, which ones are closed. You could have them in draft. But here, once you select one of the RFQs in your work stream, you see you get the summary details. It'll tell you the status that it's open, but then those blue buttons there, forward, send Q&As, or modify, or cancel. So we'll go over those. We'll start with forwarding. As I said, you can forward it to people to collaborate, but I just want to be very, very clear that again, it's only people with a government email addresses. It should only be people with a need to know, and you create you'll see that you have to create a password for access to it, so that when you're done, you submit it, and who you're sending it to, they'll receive an email with a link. You click on it, but then they'll have to put in that password in order to be able to view it in eBuy. And of course, they'll have to have an eBuy account as well. But the other major thing that need to know is that in our system, anyone you forward it to, they will have the same rights that you have to it, as far as making changes, making awards, canceling. So you have to be careful how you manage that. Make sure that you know who it is that you're giving access to it. So that's what the forwarding is. Then you can also, there's the send Q&As, which this is very common. Sometimes you'll issue an RFQ, and maybe you'll get some of the vendors will contact you, say, oh, well, this wasn't clear in the documentation. What exactly was it? And they may have questions. And so you may need to supplement your RFQ with the clarifying questions, but you need to make sure that it's those questions and answers are shared with everybody who can view it. So then you create like a Word document or whatever, and then you can upload it. And again, that will be sent, or that'll be visible to everybody who's viewing the thing. And also, if any vendors have already submitted a response to the RFQ, and then you add some Q&As to it, they will get a notification with the email with the attachment, so that they may want to come in and amend their offer. So there's that. And then modify, as I mentioned before, you can, I'm getting ahead of myself here. Here's, if the Q&As, you would do the same thing. You drag the Q&A documents there. Here, if we're modifying the contract or the RFQ, you select it. Then it's going to call it mod 1, or you can have multiple, you can change it multiple times, but then you give a little description of what it is you're changing. Maybe you add extra items to your RFQ. Maybe because of that you extend the date of the RFQ, but you just have to be upfront with everybody. And again, remember, you cannot modify it and shorten the time frame that the RFQ is open. Here we go. There we've successfully modified our RFQ. All right, so that's another big milestone. You've got it out there, and vendors are looking at it and hopefully responding to your RFQ. So now, again, here's where we're looking at your view of things. So where you're looking at it, and you can click on any of your RFQs. In this example, this RFQ for the conference room, we see we've received one response so far, and it's still open. It hasn't hit the close date. So at that point, you can you can look at it, and you can see down below, there's the response. You can view what the vendors have submitted before it's closed, but you may not want to. You may not want to start your evaluation just yet until it's closed, because then you'll have to go back probably and do it again. But you do have the ability to look at what they've submitted. And again, this is just a way, I'll go back, is that when you're looking at your RFQ details, if you don't remember which were the vendors that I sent this to, you can click on the vendor notifications. Remember, we had multiple categories, so this is for the category with the SIN 33411. Here's a list of all the vendors that was sent out to. It's just helpful information. If you're not getting responses from anybody, you can take a look and see, maybe I didn't send it out to all the vendors I thought I did. So then you get to the point of evaluating quotes, which is largely, especially if it's more complex RFQs, you'll have your own process where if you want to print out the documents, take a look at everything. A lot of the evaluation, that's the hard work that you're doing kind of outside of the system. I do want to show that, like on the RFQs here, like it does show the total quote price there down at the bottom for that vendor. So then you can just take a look at all the different responses that you get. This is showing you that a vendor could have submitted a response to the RFQ with they say no quote. And especially if you sent them the notice saying, well, here's this RFQ for you to respond to. Maybe it's not exactly what they do. Maybe it's not, maybe they're too busy. Maybe there could be any number of reasons. But they can indicate and say, okay, thank you very much, but I'm not going to submit a quote. And then but it also provides information where there's a place for them, again, to provide information of why they're not submitting a quote back to you. For each of the responses you get to the quote, you can actually just print them out. You can click on them from the list of the different responses you get. Each of them has a quote ID number, which is down there in the lower left, which is basically the RFQ with some extra characters added onto it that's unique to each individual contractor. You can display it and you look at all the details of what their response was. It's got the total quote price. We'll look at it in a minute if they broke it out into line items. You can also then just print those details out just by clicking print. Like I said, then you have to do your own evaluation, whatever your criteria are. You make your decisions. But once you make your decisions, then you can go back into eBuy to record those decisions. And here we're dealing with the simplified scenario without line items. So it's just a basic RFQ. You notice that the status says closed, so that no more RFQs can be received. So you evaluate, and then there are a couple different options, but you notice that in the bright blue button says send no award notification. So if you've gotten 5 responses, that's actually if you're not making an award at all. So maybe the responses you got, nothing was satisfactory, and maybe it wasn't what you didn't get the response you were expecting, and so you're not going to award. Maybe you're going to make changes and do another one. But you can just say, no, I'm not going to make any award. Thank you for submitting, and it will send a notification out to all the vendors that you're not making an award. And then here where you can type your text in that's going to go along with the email notification that'll go back to those vendors. And now here we are back on our conference room RFQ, and it's closed. And here's where we've got some responses down below we're going to take a look at. And let's say for this particular part of the RFQ, on an individual response, you make an award or a no award decision. And we try to make it as clear as possible: bright red, bright green, award, notify, do not award, and notify. Seems very clear. Once you go ahead and click award, it will generate the notification to the vendor saying, this is the item that you've been awarded on this RFQ. Please contact us. I just want to be clear that our system doesn't obligate funds, but that isn't a valid award notification. And that's the basic ending of making an award in eBuy. But then from that point, you can also use the system to create purchase orders if you want. And we have a few more things to go over here. So here's, you're confirming that you're awarding this item, and then they will get the notification. And here's, again, getting into where with multiple line items on an RFQ, it's a little more complicated, but we'll take a look at one of those examples. Let's say this was the one that had all these different line items in it, and this column on the left, yes and no, toggle it on and off. The default is that those are all off. And then, so basically you would have to go in and through reviewing this response, and you'd have to click each one, say, okay, yes, I'm going to award this one, this one, this one. Go through, and then it will tally up all the different, the amounts of the ones that you're awarding to that vendor. A couple things that I do want to mention is that there are some unique things as far as, if you'll notice it, like it shows the quantity, the unit of issue, and then the total, the unit price and the total price. And there are some that are blank. And they might be blank, and they might have zeros in there. And if the vendors know that if they don't want to bid on a particular item, they leave it blank. But if they were including something in their bid, but there's no additional cost to it, maybe the way they do their pricing, they just have a basic price, but the way you split it out, it was into more detail. So there may be some things that they're including in their bid, but they can say a 0 is the price. So it's included in with one of the other prices. So that would be if they enter $0, they're including it in their bid, but there's no cost. But if they leave it blank, that means they're not bidding on that item. So you go through, you make your selections, and then you say submit line items. And then again, it's going to generate the award. Here you get the notice, it was awarded successfully. And then here's where you can see that this item has been awarded. And then we'll go back to the RFQ detail. And then here's where it's just showing you, once you've awarded it, you can, down at the bottom under PO, there's that blue link, create PO, which is a purchase order. Once you've awarded something, or they contact you and you're going to continue with the purchase, you can generate a purchase order using eBuy. Or you can do that outside of the system. It's not required. And this is just showing you, these are the details that you'll have to enter for creating a purchase order. When you're done, just click the process order button. And that is basically, the end. Basically, you're creating an award, and then you can also do purchase order. then I'll just one other little thing, the red button up in the corner, the archive button, just talk about that briefly, is that because if you may be having continually having different RFQs open, and you're constantly purchasing things for different offices, and to keep your workspace clean in eBuy, if once you're done with things, if you want to archive it, you can just click the archive button and it'll move it out of the active area for you, but you'll still be able to see the archive RFQs if you want. But also just a note that if you do nothing, that it will automatically archive things, but it will only do it if it's past the close date, and that if all the responses that were awarded that vendors submit, how long that their price that they're quoting you is valid for, once all those dates have passed and it's closed, then the system will just automatically move it to the archive area. And so that is eBuy. And so just to kind of summarize it, and that's the functional area of eBuy. You're trying to get your work done, and you're trying to create these RFQs, and maybe you're working in a team or you're working by yourself, but you're only looking at your workload, and the vendors are looking at theirs, and then you're getting different views of it, and that's what eBuy is for, is getting that work done. But the next portion, which is, I think you'll find very useful, is eBuy Open. So it's basically using all the same data, all the RFQ data that you just created and the responses you get, they're in our database, but then it gets copied over to another database for eBuy Open. And it's more just for historical purposes and research purposes, market research. And so that's what this last section, is a shorter section here of the presentation, but I think you'll find it very useful. And because it's in a different area, eBuy Open is only open to the buyers, not to the sellers. So it's located in a different area and you access it differently. So I'll go through that process here. eBuy Open is, instead of being through like the Advantage suite of applications, you access it through the GSA acquisition gateway. A lot of you are probably familiar with that, but that the URL for the acquisition gateway is hallways.cap.gsa.gov. When you first go there, it will ask you, are you a federal government user? Then you click this button to say sign in as a federal user. That's where it goes through the authentication, and just like we went through that whole process earlier about using the PIV card, this also uses PIV card. You have to have an ombmax.gov account, but that would be on your PIV card as well. Your information on your certificate, which should be on your PIV card if you have an account. But so when you log in, you click, yes, I want to use my PIV card. They'll check the certificate on your card. If you're a valid user, it will let you in. So then it'll take you back to the acquisition gateway, because sometimes we get calls saying, oh, where did it go? I was in there and I used my PIV card to get in. You access from the menu up here that says tools, then you'll get a drop down that says eBuy Open. So you just click that, and then that brings you to this page, which is the main search page in eBuy Open. That's really the only page in eBuy Open. But it's basically just, because like I said, it's just all you're doing is searching and filtering the data for a lot of RFQs that have already been done by other, yourselves and other people in GSA eBuy. I'm going to walk you through the different ways of searching and filtering and the information that you can find here. The main thing is you've got the search bar and then the date range. Those are the basics of the search. We suggest you put a date range in. We've got data, all the RFQs going back to FY 2016 in here. So, and there's a lot of records in there. So you probably want to be more specific about what you're looking for, and basically what it is you're saying. If I have some need to make a purchase and I'm not familiar with, or I want to see, oh, people have done this before, but I want to do some market research, you can go take a look at all these RFQs that other federal buyers have already done, and you can take a look at what's out there and make your life a lot easier. So here's just showing, like, if you're going back through the whole database, we've got close to 500,000 records and 500,000 RFQs in there. We actually made some very recent upgrades to really increase the speed. Where I was, maybe if you were searching this through 500,000 records, it might take 4 or 5 seconds to come back with the results, but it's like less than half a second. It's very quick, and it's just dynamic, where as soon as you make the changes, it updates all the data really quickly. So here it's showing you the results. Then if you notice over on the left, again, you've got the categories of filters, status, buyer agency, source, all these different things. And if each one of those, when you click on them, then it pops up a little like an accordion window to show you your selections that you can filter by. But here, so far this fiscal year, there's around 15,000 RFQs in there. And again, you can see the RFQ number, the buying agency, the issue date, close date, all these fields for those RFQs. I just typed in laptop. Basically we went from 14,000 RFQs. I typed in the keyword search laptop. It immediately goes down to 157 RFQs. Also, notice over here on the right where it says you're viewing 25 records per page. You can change that between 25, 50, and 100. Then also, again, with these filters, like under buying agency, you pop that one open, you can see the different agencies that are in there, and again, in the parentheses, it's showing you the number of records for that agency, to give you an idea when you're searching. You make your selections. You can select multiple agencies and whatever your filter selections. And here's like I was talking about, where you can change the view to 25, 50, or 100 per page. Here we're searching by the Department of Homeland Security as the buying agency. So you see it limits our results there to DHS. One thing that may not be apparent to everyone, when you're searching by agencies, you think, okay, yeah, I want to see everything for DHS or whatever. But GSA itself does a lot of purchasing for other agencies through our assisted acquisition program or market research as a service program. So you may want to consider in doing your research, like the search for GSA, and then the buyers for GSA are very good about they having naming conventions on when they're doing RFQs, that what they put in the title, what agency it is they're purchasing it for, and what so you can see here shows that example where even though GSA was the purchasing agency, they were purchasing it for DHS. It's also shows the source of what they so you can that's one of the other filters. If you want to look for, okay, I've heard a lot about the GWACs or the 8A stars contracts or whatever, and that's one of the filters over there on the left that you can search for. I want to take a look at those RFQs and see what they're like. That's where here it's showing you the source, that's where you'd select that. And again, you can select multiple checkboxes there and it'll show you the results. Also the category, there's a couple of these the filters, that drop downs, where there's so many, to scroll down through the whole list, you can just do a little text search within the category and then it'll take you right to what it is you're looking for. Again, and this is also the small business codes. If things were done as set-asides, you can see there's the different small business the SA is for set aside, and it shows you the different subcategory of businesses. But again, it shows you the display of the main data that's in there. You can see the status, and over on the far right, it's showing you number of attachments. Here's one thing about filtering, and I may have mentioned before, it was like as you're refining your search and you're getting it down to, you keep adding more filters. All the filters, the active filters that you're using are shown up here on this bar, and you can just remove any individual one of them, but just by clicking the red X, and it will automatically update your results as you're searching. Then here, one of the last couple things here, these buttons up here are columns and export. So the columns, eBuy Open, it defaults to displaying 9 columns of the most useful information, but there's actually 17 data elements from the RFQs that are in the database, and you can customize what your display results are. If you're looking for certain things. So you can either unselect or select these check boxes, and it will automatically update your search results. I'll show you here. Here we added a buyer email and buyer name to the list, and removed category and title. And so it just automatically updates your search results. You can see that you got, and this could be very useful where if you're trying to do a new procurement, and you can find people who have, if you're networking, or people who have done, you can find other government people, procurement officials who have done similar procurements. You can contact them and find out, what went wrong with this acquisition, what went right with it. Anyway, but that's all there for you. Anywhere in here when you're searching, just click on any of the rows in the display results, and it will just pop up the this little window where it'll show you all. You have to scroll down all 17 data elements for that RFQ, and we're going to show you the others. And I think this is another one of the really great things, is that it gives you the count of how many attachments were on that RFQ, but you also have access to all the attachments that they included. So you could download and see what sort of maybe evaluation criteria or whatever it was, any of those attachments you can take a look at for your own market research to help you doing your own procurements. I think this is really, maybe it's not widely known about as eBuy, but we think it's a great tool for you to use for doing your market research and collaborating. And you can, here's just showing that if you find the attachments here, that you can download individual attachments. But then one final thing that I think is also a really useful tool here in eBuy Open is the export button up top. And basically, instead of exporting an individual RFQ, you can export your whole list of search results. Like right now, here it's got 295 RFQs listed, but it's only showing 50 per page. When you click on the export button, that it will download to a CSV file that can be opened in Excel or Google Sheets or whatever, but it will download all your search results for all 295 rather than just what's displayed on the screen there. You give it a file name, and you're done. I want to thank you. I know I was kind of going quickly there because I had a lot of ground to cover. Hopefully it wasn't too fast and confusing, but I'm open now for questions because that's the end of the eBuy Open presentation. Thank you.